Me, I am outraged by it. My constituents are outraged by it.
And they're the ones that are basically allowing Toronto to be used the cash cow.
A war of words over a potential tax increase.
Tonight, a budget battle. City councillors and Liberal MPs at odds over who should foot the bill. Good evening. We begin with the double-digit property tax hike proposed by City Hall.
It's a number councillors say could rise if the feds don't pay more, and debate that's heating up, with Toronto homeowners caught in the middle. CTV's Mike Walker joins us live with the details. Mike.
Well, Nathan, Michelle, if the city does not secure funding from the federal government to cover housing for refugees, taxpayers could be hit with what's being called a federal impacts levy, which could bring the property tax increase to as high as 16.5%, an increase being slammed by some Liberal MPs.
As the Budget Committee reviews the city's proposed spending line by line, questions loom amid a historic 10.5% property tax increase.
There must be some gravy train. There must be some pot of waste at the city that we could cut.
City staff noting there's no excessive spending to scale back as it grapples with a $1.8 billion deficit.
There is no pocket of funds that we're holding back from being able to apply to balance the budget.
The mayor and city still depending on the federal government for another $250 million to house asylum seekers, which it argues is a federal responsibility, or else taxes could jump by 16.5%.
I am outraged by it.
That is sparking criticism from some Toronto Liberal MPs.
If you have budget problems, the first thing you should do is look for savings. Olivia Chow didn't do that. She came into office, and the first thing she did was increase spending and then ask taxpayers to pay more.
Who point to previous transit and housing investments for the city.
I'm offended when they stand up and accuse us of not being a good partner. She's increased spending by $300 million in this budget. Services have gone down.
Those comments striking a nerve with some city councillors.
We are today figuring out where they will all sleep tonight, and we are doing it with property tax dollars. Those are the wrong dollars to spend on this type of effort.
Negotiations with Ottawa are ongoing.
This is a federal government running away from a responsibility that they have in law, that they have historically committed us to globally.
But whether Ottawa comes through, some residents say the proposed tax hike either way is too much to bear.
Like salaries don't increase as well.
It's a big hit at once. If you can do it in increments, that would make more sense.
That has the Canadian Taxpayers Federation calling on Olivia Chow to reject a 3.5% increase in the budget to the mayor's salary, which is currently $216,000.
If you're going to be asking for the typical Toronto family to come up with hundreds of dollars more in property tax money to send over to the city this year, that's the exact wrong time to be asking for a raise.
The mayor's office notes the salary is automatically included in the budget and outlined in a bylaw, stating the mayor did not request the increase, does not want one, and will determine how to best approach the issue as she works on her budget.
Now, this all comes as the public will now be able to weigh in and provide feedback on the budget to the mayor and budget chief. The first of 3 telephone town halls is being held tonight. Reporting live, I'm Mike Walker. Nathan, back to you.
All right, thank you, Mike. Also tonight, Canada's inflation rate rises. What's driving the uptick? What does this mean for those counting on a rate cut from the central bank? But first, we turn to the arrest of a group of teenagers in a violent crime in Oakville.
A pharmacy robbed at gunpoint, 2 employees assaulted, and a police chase to catch the young suspect. CTV's John Musselman has those details tonight.
That's right. It happened in this pharmacy behind me, and I did speak to the manager here who says he had a gun pointed at his head. Halton police say they were called to this Oakville pharmacy after reports of an armed robbery around 7:30 last night.
4 suspects, 1 armed with a handgun, came into the pharmacy. 2 employees were assaulted.
The suspects fled the plaza in a stolen car. Police spotted the vehicle a short time later. A spike belt was used to stop it, and the suspects were arrested. The manager at the pharmacy declined an on-camera interview today, but he told CTV News a handgun was pointed at his head, and the suspects demanded drugs and cash. He says 2 female employees were punched during the robbery. They are okay. This longtime customer calls the robbery frightening and disgusting.
It's just sad, unbelievable, and these guys have been here for, 14, 15 years? And to do that to somebody who's a stand-up guy and a stand-up company, it's unreal.
The pharmacy released this statement, quote, "This was a shocking event. and we trust that the perpetrators will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. No narcotics were taken. The pharmacy uses a time-delayed safe. The Ontario Pharmacists Association made these safes mandatory in March of 2023. A time-delayed safe has an electronic timer that prevents access until a preset period of time has elapsed after the correct combination has been entered. The province-wide use of time-delayed safes, often along with signage and awareness efforts, has proven to be an effective robbery deterrent in other jurisdictions, such as British Columbia and Alberta.
We have seen instances where robbers or thieves have come in, encountered a time-delayed safe, and left with nothing. So we have seen them work.
Business owners at the plaza near Bronte and Upper Middle Road say a gunpoint robbery is unsettling. The accused ranged in age from 14 to 18 years old.
It's scary and it's not good, right? Because if they were teenagers, it's very bad.
Oh, that's scary, like I told you. It's not right, you know.
Now, Halton Regional Police say there's still an active investigation. If you have any video, dashcam video, or additional information, you're asked to call them or Crime Stoppers. John Musselman, CTV News in Oakville.
Toronto police have released some terrifying video of armed suspects trying to break into a home in Scarborough. It was caught on a security camera early yesterday morning, showing 4 masked suspects dressed in black entering through a backyard, attempting to get into a home. 2 of them appeared to be carrying handguns. This was near Beach Grove and Coronation Drives. They were unable to get inside and fled in a silver 4-door sedan. Coming up, parents at a Toronto middle school demand answers after hundreds of students were potentially exposed to asbestos and weren't notified for almost a month.
It's going to be another cold night in Toronto. Temperatures dipping into the double digits below zero.
That's once again raising concerns about the city's homeless and shelter capacity. CTV's Rahim Ladani is looking at the city's response and joins us live from a warming center tonight. Rahim.
Michelle and Nathan, good evening. Just about an hour ago, the city officially opened the Cecil Street Warming Center behind me. This is now the 5th warming center it's opened this year to help deal with the sustained cold temperatures. But in speaking with people who use the services, they say much more is needed. With a deep freeze settling in, warming centers across the city are operating at full capacity, leaving some people out in the cold.
Even last night, I came out. The lady was crying. They give her food. She cannot eat the food because her hand is freezing.
The city's 4 warming centers have been open since temperatures dropped to -5 degrees Celsius, a change councillors adopted last year. Now that they're plummeting below -15, the city is activating its surge plan, opening up the Cecil Street Warming Center, which will add an extra 30 spaces.
What -15 does is it allows us to put more workers on the streets to support people living on the streets and add in additional capacity where we can.
In addition to the warming centers, the city says there are 180 new shelter spaces and 240 new respite centers.
I lost my sleeping bag about 5-6 days ago, and I knew there and then that because January was pretty cold so far, that I couldn't keep sleeping outside.
Those using the services are grateful, but say it's simply not enough.
It's not a real bed, but it's a cat bed, but still is better than no bed at all. It's full to the top. Even now there is a man there. He doesn't want to leave because he's cold, of course. And the staff is, the security is trying to get him out.
While the city calls on other levels of government to help out, advocates remain concerned of the consequences in the meantime.
The question is, how many people will die? How many people will have hypothermia, frostbite, amputated digits and limbs?
Rafi Aaron feels the city needs to engage its Office of Emergency Management to avoid reaching maximum capacity, which staff acknowledge is a reality.
At that point, what we try to do is work with our partners to make sure that individual has another site to go to. We may not always be successful, though.
Adding to the uncertainty of safety for those most vulnerable. And to give you a better sense of just how great the need is, the city says that across all of its platforms, around 13,000 people are using their shelter services. Reporting live, I'm Raheem Ladani. Nathan, I'll send it back to you.
All right, thank you, Raheem. Let's take a live look outside tonight. Some people on skates braving the cold. We had flurries to start the day, and the cold conditions continuing tonight and for the next couple of days. Jessica Smith is here with a look at the current conditions. Jessica.
We've seen this cold kind of migrating its way towards us throughout the majority of the weekend. It was in the prairies. It's now made its way towards us, still keeping the prairies cold, but we're experiencing some of that here in southern Ontario. A good portion of southern Ontario, with the exception of downtown and really the city of Toronto, is under an extreme cold warning. Still seeing those snow squall watches and warnings and special weather statements along those eastern shorelines of Lake Huron and Georgian Bay. They're still dealing with some lake effect snow. This carries us right through the rest of our day today. The likelihood of us seeing any more snow tonight, pretty low. But as we head in towards the next couple of days, the snow, the chance of it and the cold is going to linger. Coming up, a full look at your long-range forecast. For now, I'll send things over to Michelle.
Thank you, Jessica. We turn to concerns being raised after asbestos was found inside a Toronto middle school.
The TDSB sent a letter to parents warning them about the issue, but some say it wasn't soon enough. CTV's Janice Golding joins us from Queen Alexandra Middle School with the story. Janice.
Hi, yes, Nathan. Some parents here at Queen Alexandra Middle School in the city's East End are wondering why it took the city, or rather the school board, nearly a month to notify them that their children may have been exposed to hazardous materials. More than 400 students in grades 6, 7, and 8 attend Queen Alexandra Middle School at Broadview and Dundas. Students whom parents fear were exposed to asbestos last month.
It's something that you could get in your lungs. And it's very dangerous.
Parents say they received a letter from the school's principal on January the 12th indicating asbestos and lead dust had been generated when a new air handling unit was being commissioned to replace the school's HVAC system, and say despite the fact the dust was discovered on December the 14th, they weren't notified until nearly a month later.
I don't know why, but what the reason for the delays? I don't understand.
It was surprising. I don't know. It was so late.
I feel like that's something that they should tell people. It's very concerning.
And we didn't get a letter.
Okay, so you didn't even know about this?
I didn't know about this until now. That's wrong, totally wrong. We should have been informed.
The letter says the TDSB retained a certified company to provide abatement and cleanup services, and the material had been safely removed. Further to that, the letter reads, an investigation to determine whether there was any risk of exposure was conducted, and Occupational Health and Safety has determined that any potential exposure was low risk.
Still is a risk.
Today, a spokesperson for the board clarified that once the dust was noticed, the air handling unit was immediately shut off and students relocated while staff thoroughly cleaned the area as a precaution. Another cleanup took place the next day while an environmental consultant took samples. Results of those samples were received on Friday, December 22nd, 2023, indicating a limited amount of asbestos in a group of rooms and lead in one room. The board added that the ductwork was cleaned again in early January, with more sampling showing results that were within acceptable limits. Bird says even though the board doesn't expect to find any other issues this week, there will be further inspections. Reporting live from Janice Golding, now back to Nathan.
All right, thank you, Janice. An inquest into the death of Sammy Yatim continued today.
The Toronto teen was shot by a police officer on an empty streetcar in 2013. And as CTV's Allison Hurst reports, the inquest heard that officer had prior incidents involving firearms.
Jurors in the public inquest into Sammy Yatim's death are learning more about then Constable James Forcillo, who fired the shots. And heard that less than 2 weeks before, he'd pointed a firearm at someone else while on the job. Toronto Police Superintendent Lisa Crooker told jurors about a use of force alert, saying there was one July 16, 2013, and that is point shotgun. Crooker was called to detail the Toronto Police hiring, recruiting, and screening processes, monitoring of members, changes and updates, and to explain her understanding of the early intervention program. She says that's triggered when a threshold of alerts for things like use of force, complaints, or vehicle collisions is reached within a 12-month period. Any use of force alerts that were triggered that involved Mr. Frasillo, asked Inquest counsel Grace Alcaide-Janikis. I do have incidents that were triggered in 2012, Crooker replied, and outlined the dates. Alcaide-Janikis summed it up saying, there were 5 alerts that had been generated in 2012 on the dates that you've indicated. In terms of the chart I was reading, those are use of force reports that did get entered, Crooker says. Yatim was killed in 2 volleys of bullets while he was on a streetcar holding a small knife on July 27, 2013, shortly after midnight. Jurors acquitted Frasillo of second-degree murder related to the first round of shots, but he was convicted of attempted murder in relation to the second. During the inquest, Crooker agreed when asked about certain units and areas that may require officers to draw their weapons more often than others. And she says the early intervention program is not a disciplinary system. On that, Councillor Ed Upnicks asked, your concern was the overall well-being of the officer, correct? It is from a wellness perspective, correct, explained Crooker. The inquest is set to last 13 days with 14 witnesses expected to speak. Alison Hurst, CTV News.
A close call for the pilot of a small plane in Ajax last night. The pilot had to make an emergency landing just before 9. The plane landed on Bailey Street East and Audley Road South. Durham Regional Police say the pilot glided the aircraft onto the roadway when the engine failed. The plane was damaged. It struck a few light standards, but no one was hurt.
And take a look at this. Police released footage of a driver who crashed their vehicle on the 407 after coming upon a row of plows. The driver was passing other vehicles near Martin Grove before approaching the slower moving plows. The vehicle crashed into the concrete median, hit a plow, and then spun out. The OPP say drivers can face a $325 fine if they're caught overtaking a group of plows on a multi-lane highway.
Canada's inflation rate rose last month, dashing hopes there might be a rate cut early this year.
What does this mean for you, and what's the Bank of Canada's next move? CTV's Colton Prail reports.
It's not the news Canadians were hoping to see. Inflation increasing, up from 3.1% in October and November to 3.4% in December. The jump is driven in large part by year-over-year prices for gasoline. But there's concern after core inflation measures increased slightly month over month, highlighting a lack of change in key inflationary drivers like shelter costs.
That really leads into this discussion around rate cuts. Is the Bank of Canada in the position to rush to rate cuts?
A question on the mind of many homeowners, staring down mortgage renewals and hoping for the bank to cut interest rates as early as this spring.
If your renewal's coming up and all of a sudden your mortgage payment might go up $300, $400, $500, then that's where the problem is. So there is concern among Canadians for sure.
Experts say one-off increases in airfares and passenger vehicles were also significant contributors to headline inflation, but they're cautiously optimistic trends are heading in the right direction, although strong wage growth could pose a challenge.
Is that sustainable if you're aiming for a 2% inflation environment? So I think there's, yes, lots of challenges yet to get to that 2% target the bank is aiming for.
The Bank of Canada will announce its latest interest rate decision next week, a move that will tell Canadians exactly how confident it is in its ability to hit the target. Colton Prail, CTV News, Ottawa.
In the Middle East, a deal has been reached allowing for the delivery of medicine to hostages held captive in Gaza. The more than 100 captives have not been visited by the Red Cross, and many are believed to be in desperate need of medication. The deal was agreed upon with French assistance. The medicines are expected to be delivered tomorrow. As part of the agreement, additional humanitarian aid will be delivered to Palestinians in the territory.
Israel has announced it would scale back operations in the north as part of a transition to smaller, targeted operation. But residents in the area said today tanks moved in, reigniting fierce combat. Gaza health authorities reported 158 people were killed in the last 24 hours by Israeli bombing. Israel says its forces killed dozens of Hamas fighters overnight. They also conducted airstrikes on what the army says were enemy infrastructure and operatives.
The U.S. military carried out new strikes in Yemen today. Warplanes struck anti-ship ballistic missiles in a Houthi-controlled part of the country. The Iran-allied rebels have threatened to expand their attacks to include American ships in response to U.S. and British strikes on its sites. Meanwhile, a Greek-owned bulk carrier was hit by a Houthi missile in the Red Sea today. There were no injuries, and it will likely reroute for safety checks.
As expected, it was no contest as Donald Trump won big in the Iowa caucuses last night.
But today, the former U.S. president faced a different type of challenge in New York. CTV's Joy Malbin reports.
After cruising to a blowout victory here in Iowa, Donald Trump's first campaign stop was a New York courtroom to face a defamation suit, a jury deciding how much he owes the writer E. Jean Carroll over allegations he sexually abused her decades ago. Last night, Trump took more than 50% of the vote among conservatives and evangelicals in Iowa, a striking political comeback for the former president. The bitter cold affecting turnout, the lowest in 25 years. Still, a win is a win. In spite of the former president's legal challenges, he's tightened his grip on the Republican Party and the nomination.
This is the first because the big night is going to be in November.
Not if Nikki Haley can help it. Coming in a distant third, she's pivoting to the New Hampshire primary, where the former South Carolina governor is within single digits of Trump in the polls. Appealing to independent voters there, endorsed by the state's governor, it's Haley's best shot at tripping Trump up.
Our campaign is the last best hope of stopping the Trump-Biden nightmare.
Florida's Governor Ron DeSantis, coming in a distant second place, staked his entire campaign on Iowa. Both he and Haley spent more time battling each other than Donald Trump.
In spite of all of that they threw at us, everyone against us, we've got our ticket punched out of Iowa.
But it's tough to see how long he can raise money and attract support to keep his campaign alive. Haley says she won't debate DeSantis. She's going after Trump in New Hampshire, which holds its first contest next week. Then it's on to Haley's home state in South Carolina. Joy Malbin, CTV News, Des Moines, Iowa.
After leading the provincial New Democrats for nearly a decade, former Alberta Premier Rachel Notley is stepping down.
Having considered what I believe to be the best interests of our party, our caucus, as well as my own preferences, I'm here today to announce that I will not be leading Alberta's NDP into the next election.
Notley will stay on until a replacement is chosen. The leader of the official opposition doesn't know what her next steps might be, but is not ruled out running again. Notley says she's particularly proud that Alberta is no longer a one-party province where people have no real choice in how things are run.
Here at home, a local MP is reportedly heading to Europe for a new job. Carolyn Bennett is set to become the next ambassador to Denmark. An official announcement is expected this week. The former federal cabinet minister stepped down in July after announcing she would not seek re-election. Bennett has served as the Liberal MP for Toronto St. Paul. Today, a longtime councillor indicated he might be interested in the job. Josh Matlow says, "I'm grateful to Carolyn Bennett for her friendship and service to our community. I've been receiving encouragement to seek the Liberal nomination to represent Toronto St. Paul's federally. I'm giving this opportunity the thoughtful consideration it deserves and will decide soon."
Jeremy Hansen spoke with students from a dozen schools in remote Indigenous communities today. The Canadian astronaut telling them to shoot for the stars.
The one thing I have come to realize is that every single human on our planet has equal value, every single one. And every single human has important gifts to share with the world, to share with their communities, to bring together to help lift us all up collectively. And that is buried inside of each of you.
The London, Ontario native began his address by acknowledging the achievements of Indigenous explorers. Hansen is set to be the first Canadian to fly to the moon as part of the Artemis II mission in 2025. Coming up, been to the gym lately? Among the flood of folks looking to make good on their New Year's resolutions, fitness influencers are prompting calls for a refresh on gym etiquette.
And I'm Pat Foran coming up on Consumer Alert. Now that freezing temperatures have arrived, drivers need to take extra caution on slippery roads. Many accidents can be avoided just by slowing down. We have some advice to help you get through another winter. That story is just ahead.
And speaking of the cold, the wind chill is wicked as we head through the overnight, and it carries into tomorrow morning as well. So for the kids heading off to school, extra layers will be key through 8 a.m. It will feel like minus 25. Coming up, I'll have a full look at your long-range forecast, let you know how long the cold is staying. That's coming up after the break.
Several accidents shut down or slowed traffic in the GTA today, and most delays were the result of crashes due to icy conditions.
About 2/3 of Ontario drivers now use winter tires, but whether you do or not, speed is usually a factor in many collisions. Pat Foran is here with Consumer Alert. Pat.
Thanks, Michelle and Nathan. We've had snow, sleet, rain, and now with freezing temperatures, lots of ice. Despite this latest cold snap, police say many drivers are not slowing down, which is causing accidents they say could be avoided. This is police video of a vehicle driving over a patch of nearly invisible ice. The two occupants were fortunate to suffer only minor injuries thanks to their seatbelts.
Dozens of drivers just not realizing that the roads are slick, and when conditions change, you need to adjust your driving, and you need to do that in advance of getting into trouble.
Sergeant Carrie Schmidt posted video of a car losing control on the 407 this morning. The vehicle crashed into a snowplow, causing delays.
This car comes slamming into the back of them and gets tangled up and shuts down the entire snowplow operation.
Consumer Reports says everyone should be more cautious when driving in freezing conditions.
Everything in slick conditions takes longer. So leave yourself that room. It not only gives you that room, but protects you from other drivers who may not be driving appropriately.
Most newer cars now come with a sensor to tell you the outside temperature, and while it's not always completely accurate, it's a good idea to check it every time you drive in the winter. Your dashboard may also have a flashing light to let you know when the roads might be icy.
When you get down to zero, close to zero, and obviously below zero, you're in icing conditions, and that's when we often see problems.
Four-wheel or all-wheel drive can help when it's slippery, but it's actually anti-lock brakes that help you safely regain control and stop. You'll know they're working when they pulsate against your foot, maintain firm pressure on the pedal, and let them do their job. If your car does begin to slide, here's how to regain control.
There's really two kinds of skids, oversteer and understeer. In both cases, the reaction should be to turn in the direction you want to go. With oversteer, it's very intuitive. You turn into the skid. When you gain grip, you end up going where you want to go. In understeer, you're turning, but the car's going straight ahead, and your gut is to want to dial in more steering. Don't do that. Keep the wheel steady where you're headed so that when you gain grip, you're going where you want to be.
No matter what tires you have, make sure they're properly inflated with good traction, as they can make a difference when winter weather is at its worst. And when the roads are slippery, you should also not use cruise control, which could cause you to lose traction on icy or snow-covered roads. On your side, I'm Pat Foran.
If you have a consumer story idea, email us at alert@ctv.ca.
Well, I gotta say, we can see a live shot of Nathan Phillips Square. The folks behind us skating tonight, they're a hardy bunch because it is a very cold night, and tomorrow is going to really be the coldest day of the week.
It really is. I mean, I did live in Regina for a little while, and Nathan, you did as well. And I know you worked out in Winnipeg, you've been out to Winnipeg. So you guys, we know cold, but it's just different. We haven't had it so far this time of year, and we're just experiencing this kind of a cold snap. So whether you're used to the cold or not, layers are key, and they will keep you safe. Weather is brought to you by Train, the most reliable heating and cooling brand. It's hard to stop a train. If you were out early on this morning, that drive was a little treacherous. We saw those lake effect flurries affecting us during that morning commute. They moved out just in time for the lunch hour, and we saw a little sunshine, albeit really cold sunshine. And we are still seeing that cold Arctic air that really was sitting over the prairies make its way towards us. We're sitting right now at -10. It feels like -19. Areas out towards Windsor, it feels like -25. Ottawa escaping some of the cold for now, but things will change as we head in towards the next few days. Tonight, it is going to be cold. That -16 will feel like -25 overnight, and we hold on to that wind chill into the morning tomorrow. Everybody feeling this cold, and it is prompting some extreme cold warnings. Now, getting into the day tomorrow, lots of sunshine on the way, but again, we're holding on to this really cold Arctic air. The bulk of the active weather that we're seeing really throughout the next few days is lake effect snow off of Lake Huron, Georgian Bay, Lake Ontario, Lake Erie. So we're kind of sitting with this as we head in towards really the end of the week. If we see any more snow this week, trace amounts at most, but it doesn't take much to make that drive a little dicey. As we head through the evening, relatively clear, lots of sun to start the day tomorrow. But again, because we don't have that cloud cover acting as a bit of a blanket, it just gets frigid. As we head in towards our Wednesday night, some cloud cover moves in, the chance of some snow as we get in towards Thursday, but the bulk of that system staying pretty far south of us. But again, the chance for lake effect flurries is going to be there. As we head in towards the next few days, again, that really deep purple, that is an indication of that really cold air, and it pushes its way down as we head into the day tomorrow and right through to the end of the week. So it is going to kind of bring those temperatures down and keep them there at least until about Sunday. Our daytime high tomorrow, -10. It is going to be frigid. We're looking at that wind chill feeling like -18. And then as we head in towards the evening, dropping down to -9. The chance of, again, active weather really is due to that lake effect snow machine kind of firing up around us. So the chance of seeing snow is low, but it is going to be kind of in the vicinity. It really is until we get to Sunday that we see a bit of a clearing and a return to more seasonal weather. Not warm by any means, but at least back towards seasonal. Nathan, Michelle.
Thank you, Jess.
Thanks.
Also tonight, Hollywood celebrates diversity and highlights the importance of giving a voice to the voiceless. We look back at the history-making Emmy Awards later in the show.
New numbers from the Alzheimer's Society of Ontario showed that by the end of this year, more than 300,000 people will be living with dementia.
CTV Health reporter Pauline Chan visited one facility that aims to help patients with behavioral difficulties.
Okay. Oh, boy, I'm cold.
A walk down the hall brings 87-year-old Emily to a bus stop with an Extended Care Rouge Valley's BSTU, Behavioral Support Transitional Unit, and the clients come from home or other facilities to stabilize their behavior.
Dementia is a very difficult diagnosis for the patients and their families. Oftentimes there is an emphasis on the cognitive symptoms, which can be like poor short-term memory or language issues, but it is the mental health symptoms that can be very challenging for patients and families.
The unit is multidisciplinary with nurse practitioners, therapists, physicians, and more, and they aim to personalize care.
Enabling a resident's lived experience, in particular with previous occupations they may have had. So this can be a very popular station for some residents who previously had a workshop or they did painting.
There are a range of innovative activities.
So right now we're just seeing visual displays of things that might trigger memories from the past that are comforting or calming. In the context of dementia, some folks can become very tactile, so they like to touch and feel things. It feels like a real snout, the tongue actually feels like a real tongue, and of course they're nice and soft to pet.
There are behaviors that are responsive to medications, but there are also behaviors that are not responsive to medications, where behavioral strategies like communication, relaxation activities, music therapy is actually more beneficial to the patient.
And beyond the technology, Nadine Albert says there is specially trained staff.
What she does recognize is the warmth and the care from the individuals, the people who work in that unit.
The Alzheimer's Society of Ontario projects that in 2024, almost 67,000 residents will develop Alzheimer's or some form of dementia. The aim of the BSTU is to help those with challenging behavior to be able to live successfully in their next destination, whether that be in long-term care or a family home. Pauline Chan, CTV News.
Some new data from the World Health Organization on smoking. The total number of adult tobacco users has decreased globally. The WHO says 1.25 billion people smoked in 2022. That was 1 in 5 people, down from 1 in 3 in 2000. The UN Health Agency says there were 19 million fewer smokers. Southeast Asia and Europe are the biggest consumers of tobacco products.
We have a food recall to tell you about tonight. There are concerns about possible salmonella contamination related to a brand of frozen corn. The Canadian Food Inspection Agency says Eagle brand frozen corn should not be eaten, served, or sold. The affected product comes in bags of 1.75 kilograms with a best before date of February 1st, 2025.
The 75th annual Emmy Awards were finally held last night.
Delayed by the writers and actors strikes last summer, the show chose the Martin Luther King Jr. Day holiday to host its event. Andrea Case is here now to tell us how that day tied into the event.
It certainly did, Michelle and Nathan. Good evening. One writer called the Emmys not spectacular, but black-tacular. For the first time in the history of the Emmys, it was produced by an all-black executive producing team, and the show ended playing a part of King's "I Have a Dream" speech, which was voted by the Academy as one of the most impactful moments in television history.
I'm a winner, baby!
Niecy Nash-Betts, star of Monster, the Jeffrey Dahmer story, accepted her Emmy Award on behalf of Black and brown women who have gone unheard yet over-policed. And
I want to thank me for believing in me and doing what they said I could not do. And I want to say to myself in front of all you beautiful people, go on, girl, with your bad self. You did that.
Quinta Brunson, Abbott Elementary.
Not since the Jeffersons' Isabel Stanford won an Emmy for Best Actress in a Comedy 42 years ago did a black woman repeat. Last night, Abbott Elementary's Quinta Brunson did just that. Ayu Edebiri won the Outstanding Supporting Actress in a Comedy Series Emmy for her work in The Bear.
A dream to emigrate to this country and have your child be like, I want to do improv, but you're real ones. Thank you so much for this. It means the world.
Edebiri's co-stars Eben Mus Bachrach and Jeremy Allen White also won acting awards. 3 of the 6 the show took home in its first year of competition. RuPaul won his 8th consecutive Emmy as host. Now he is the most awarded host in Emmy history, and he has the most wins for a person of color.
Thank you so much, you lovely, lovely people.
There's No Problem with Beef. The limited Netflix series won 5 awards, including acting nods to Stephen Yeun and Ali Wong. Wong was the first woman of Asian descent to do so. Succession ends its 4-year run, dominating all the major drama categories, taking home 6 awards in total, the most of the night.
Ain't we lucky we got 'em? Good time.
Hosted by Anthony Anderson, the 75th Emmy Awards also offered a trip down memory lane with recreated sets and cast reunions from some of television's most memorable shows.
I want to thank all the evil gays.
Anderson's mother, Doris Bowman, was called upon to make sure speeches were kept to time. My time is done. Well, if there were losers last night, the final season of Ted Lasso walked away empty-handed. And Better Call Saul, after 53 nominations, it won 0, none, nada, not a single Emmy Award over its 6 seasons. Up next on the awards circuit, Britain's BAFTA Awards on Thursday, and the Oscar nominations will be announced a week from today. I've got you covered. Michelle, it's back to you.
Oh, we know you do. Thank you, Andrea. Sum 41 is coming home to the GTA for what the band says will be their final show.
The faster we're falling, we're stopping and stalling, we're running in circles again.
The Ajax Rockers are playing Scotiabank Arena on January 30th of next year. Tickets go on sale Friday. It is the last stop on a world tour that kicks off March 1st in Southeast Asia. There will also be shows in Europe and the U.S. Additional Canadian dates will be announced soon.
The Stars Tonight is brought to you by Lastman's Bad Boy, court-approved liquidation sale.
On the next CP24 Breakfast.
It's Wellness Wednesday, and we'll be getting some timely tips from an expert on keeping your skin healthy in these frigid conditions.
CP24 Breakfast up first at 5:30.
There must be some gravy train. There must be some part of waste of the city that we could cut.
Updating our top stories, trying to find savings as City Committee is reviewing the proposed 2024 budget, aiming to address a significant financial shortfall amid the possibility of a double-digit property tax hike.
4 suspects, 1 armed with a handgun, came into the pharmacy. 2 employees were assaulted.
4 teenagers are in custody following a violent pharmacy robbery and car chase in Oakville last night. Police used a spike belt to stop the vehicle. The suspects are between the ages of 14 and 18 years old.
What Minus 15 does is it allows us to put more workers on the streets, to support people living on the streets.
The freezing temperatures have prompted the city to activate its surge plan for warming centers. The Cecil Street Warming Center will be open tonight in order to provide more spaces for those in need to get out of the cold.
On the markets, the Canadian dollar is down about 1/3 of a cent to 74.9 cents U.S. American benchmark oil lost 27 cents to close at 72.52 a barrel. And the TSX Composite Index dropped 113 points to end the day at 20,948.09.
The Business Report is brought to you by Canadian Western Bank, the bank built for business.
High interest rates have driven up the cost of home ownership, and Statistics Canada says that has affected the rental market. The average rental price rose more than 7% year over year in December. Ontario and BC contributed the most to the rental market spike, that they had increases of 6.9% and 8.6% respectively.
Gyms everywhere are packed with people working on their New Year's resolutions.
Many are documenting their fitness journeys on camera, but as CTV's Sean Leithong reports, that's raising concerns over gym etiquette in the age of social media.
The gym floor is a shared space, like here at Vive Fitness on Lakeshore in Etobicoke. Working out in close proximity calls for etiquette. But an emerging trend, people filming their own workouts, is creating new questions around what's right and what's wrong.
I've seen it a lot on TikTok specifically. A lot of influencers kind of find themselves documenting themselves to post it as content.
As fitness influencers and others document their work, where and what is filmed can lead to confrontation, like this at a Good Life Fitness in Calgary last fall.
You're not going to be in the background.
People are using their cell phones and tripods, and they're taking advantage of all the new technology that makes filming so practical and professional.
Paul Andini is a personal trainer and fitness columnist. He says as filming is becoming more common, more videos are being posted featuring people who have not agreed to be on camera and featured in a negative light.
They start making fun of people. They start picking apart other people's technique. They start picking apart their appearances.
Influencers showing frustration when someone walks through their shot, or trying to shame a person who asked not to be filmed in the locker room.
He has every right to ask you to not film in the locker room.
Influencer Joey Swoll has been dedicating his time to establishing etiquette and calling out videos that aim to shame.
Did you ever stop to think how he would feel if he saw this video or the comments?
At Vive Fitness, they create their own videos for social media and follow basic guidelines.
We make sure that, one, we're not disrupting anyone's workout, and two, if we are filming and there's other people in the shots, we're going to either ask them if they're okay, or we're just going to film with no one in the shot.
Aya Kinsey says she doesn't mind if someone's filming at the gym.
I can kind of understand like the discomfort when you kind of go to work out and then you get yourself in someone else's video. It can kind of be like a little invasion of privacy almost.
While David Osei says basic etiquette should be simple.
You don't own the gym, and if you're going to film people, at least get some consent, you know?
We contacted Good Life, who said in a statement, Good Life has a long-standing policy that allows people to take photos and videos in the common areas of the club. But it has to be done in a way that protects the experience, privacy, and dignity of other people in the club.
Cell phones, smartphones, social media, this stuff isn't going away. We need to learn how to live with it in a civilized manner.
Landini says that in order to set expectations, gyms should come up with their own rules to protect that space. Sean Leithong, CTV News.
Their mission, find water on the moon. Students at a Mississauga school join the space race and take part in a lunar rover research challenge. The results just ahead. It wasn't your average day of learning in a Mississauga classroom today.
Students ditched their regular lessons to take on a mission on the moon. CTV's Beth McDonnell reports.
2, 1, and we are live. They are the youngest students who won the national space competition. Lisgar Middle School in Mississauga is among 4 schools from across the country selected to take part in the Lunar Rover Research Challenge.
It's hard, but it's very exciting and stressful at the same time, so we really enjoy it.
The goal of the simulation, find water on the moon, just like real scientists would. The difference, the rover is in Stratford, Ontario. Mission control, their classroom.
I feel like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm a part of a space mission. You know, and I'm like, let's say this rover actually goes to space, and then I'm on TV. Like, that's going to be amazing for me.
Remember, this map is like a bird's eye view. Each pod of students has a specialty, each critical to the mission. Some plan the route, others remote control the rover, while teams constantly check it's working and gather vital crater information. All real work experience.
Hard work pays off. All the time we spent making the application to do this, now we're reaping the benefits. This is an amazing experience.
The competition is run through charity Let's Talk Science. More than 16,000 youth took part. This challenge, an equal part mix of learning and fun.
It's loud, it's a little stressful, they're saying, and that's exactly what we want. The main point of it is the communication, using a decision-making process that takes into account the logic, the shadows, where the sun is, where the ice would likely be.
Many of these students already had an interest in space prior to winning, part of the school board's International Business and Technology program.
It feels really good. When I was really little, I wanted to do stuff like this, and it's like a dream come true.
2 hours in, it was mission complete, setting the stage for even bigger things to come. Beth McDonnell, CTV News.
Well, we know it's cold on the moon, and it seems almost that cold here.
It feels like it sometimes, but prompts an extreme cold warning is different depending on where you are in the province and in the country. So for us, the threshold is -30 for 2 hours or more. We're not quite there, but it doesn't mean that it's not absolutely freezing outside. We're still looking at extreme cold warnings bordering us here in the GTA. We're not quite there, but we will see wind chill values near -25, -26, and still dealing with snow squalls in and along those eastern shorelines of Lake Huron and Georgian Bay. Temperature-wise, in the morning tomorrow, the wind chill will be -25 for that drive. Getting into the afternoon, we're sitting at -10. It feels like -18, and overnight that -9 will feel like -19. It's a lot of numbers. They're all cold. As we head in towards Thursday and Friday, more of the same. The chance of flurries is going to linger as we look at lake effect snow around us. But Sunday, we get back to seasonal, and then there's a very moderate warming trend on the way next week. And a reminder, tonight's Lotto Max jackpot is an estimated $70 million plus 10 max millions.
All right, thank you, Jess. Be sure to join Omar Sachedina tonight at 11 for CTV National News, followed by Natalie Johnson with our next local newscast at 11:30.
In the meantime, our coverage continues anytime on CP24 and online at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Jessica Smith and all of us at CTV News, thank you for watching and have a good night.